This is on. Can you hear me? Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to our session today. But before we start, I would like just to mention that there is a headphone with translation into English, French, Spanish, Russian, and I think Arabic. So please take care of that. I'm Dr. Sheikha Al-Misnad. I'm member of the board of World of Justice Board of Director, and I would like to welcome you today to our session on the challenges, award justice challenges. Of course, I think most of you know that this is the third year for the World of Justice challenges. And this is a very global competition with the high quality and the high impact. The whole idea is for the World Justice Project is how these challenges can emphasize, promote, and protect the principle of the World Justice Project, which is rule of law and justice, or a world full of justice. This year, the challenges are dedicated to recognize projects which address culture inequality and governance weakness, which was accelerated, of course, by the COVID-19 pandemic. Applicants were invited to submit their project in four main areas, which is the main area of the World Justice Project work: access to justice, anti-corruption and open government, equal rights, and non-discrimination. This year, the World Justice Project received 300 applicants. Out of those 300, 31 were the finalists, was chosen to be presented today in all the work session around this place. I think they represent 118 countries all over the world. 5 of these projects will be awarded. Out of the 35 will be selected and will be the winner, and each one of them will win $20,000 each. There are 10 finalists in the anti-corruption and open government category. So this session, and there is another session also on anti-corruption and open government or access to government. And of course, I think everybody that knows, I'm sure all of you here, because you know that corruption is one of the most damaging aspects of the management of a human society. It's a threat to justice. It's a threat to the rule of law. It can damage the equality between people. It creates poverty and undermine the application and access to right to justice or to the correct justice. Actually, people always think that corruption is only, it's a financial. It is only stealing money from government or stealing money from big companies. But for me, I think the damage of corruption is more than that. It's demoralization of a whole society. And it can happen at all levels and in all fields. It can happen in education, in health, in business, small business, big business. But the sad things, actually, I have seen it with myself, coming from the Middle East, that corruption became like a way of life. And those who are corrupt and making a lot of money, a lot of people in the society look at them, oh, they are smart. They understand the system, and they manipulate the system for their benefit. So that's what I'm saying, demoralizing, especially for the young generation. When they come out and see that things are done in that way, and they have to be part of that circle of corruption, otherwise they would not reach anywhere, it's really frustrating. And corruption also is not only at the high level. It will become like a social pattern at all levels. For instance, in some country, you can bribe a government official in the civil service to make your work permit ready in one day instead of 3 months. Or you can bribe the police traffic to get away of your fines of traffic. It can happen at all levels. And that's why it can become a way of life. And that's the damaging part of it, that there is no trust between people. Nobody trusts the government. Nobody trusts each other. And everybody all the time trying to manipulate and take advantage of the other person. So today, as I said, I hope we can find solution, but I'm sure not today. Today, we'll start with our 5 finalists for this group. And the first person here is Mr. Abbas Inua. He will talk about Transparency Information Technology Initiative in Nigeria. Is Mr. Abbas here or? Oh, he's already there. Oh, it's virtual. Okay. Thank you. That's why I was looking for him.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I want to thank the World Justice Project for advancing the rule of law globally, and also for giving us the opportunity to join and also be here virtually, despite missing the opportunity to be at the forum physically. So I have a slide that I'm going to take us through about our work. My name is Abbas Inua. I'm the founder and director of Transparency Information Technology Initiative. I'll be talking to us about our project, Trial Monitoring of Corruption Cases in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Next slide, yeah, thank you. Corruption is a major issue in the country. It's a problem that, that has a significant obstacle to the business and development in Nigeria. Nigeria has been consistently ranked as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And last year, Transparency International ranked Nigeria as 154th most corrupt country out of 188 countries and territories surveyed. And these acts of corruption deny our citizens the essential health, education, water, and social services. In most cases, the perpetrators of these criminal acts of corruption often go unpunished due to the corruption in the justice system or slow dispensation of justice. Next slide, please. A survey by Transparency International, again, titled Global Corruption Barometer in 2019, asserted that more than half of Nigerians perceive the judicial system to be corrupt. This statement was also reinforced by another survey conducted by an anti-corruption agency in Nigeria, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, in 2020, and also the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index 2021, which also ranked Nigeria as 121 out of 139 countries in the world, scoring below global average in civil and criminal justice component. And so often our citizens and companies that in Nigeria face a high risk of corruption when interacting with Nigeria's judiciary, and judges frequently fail to appear for trials, and in some cases, court official asks for bribes in order to facilitate judicial processes. So corruption trials take an average of 8 years to be conducted by the courts, often due to corruption and abuse of power. Next slide. In order to resolve this, we believe the best way to go about it is to have a trial monitoring system that is going to help ensure transparency in proceedings, preserve fair trial, and promote the rule of law. Basically, is to increase public awareness and public trust in the justice system by ensuring transparency and accountability in the process of the judiciary. We believe that an impartial, competent, and efficient judiciary is vital in addressing corruption and providing essential public services to the citizen. Next slide. In 2016, we carried out a research and identify most cases that are lingering in court, and we initiated a trial monitoring of corruption cases project to address challenges of trial of corruption cases that are lingering in the docket of the judiciary. The project basically is to track and evaluate corruption cases in Nigerian courts to ensure stakeholders comply with the law to push cases at every hearing towards a speedy conclusion. We believe that this will, the project goal is to reduce the delays in the trials and improve efficiency, and also foster courtroom openness, data transparency, and citizens' participation in the judicial process. Next slide. So basically, our process of monitoring cases, first, we enlist case trackers or case monitors who will then receive training from expert, and after the training, we assign them to various courts and where they can track the cases, and they go out for the field activity of monitoring the cases in the court. And from the monitoring, they collect data of those court activities, and from that also, they send the data down to our head office where the data will be reviewed and analyzed. And after the data is being analyzed, it will be documented onto a corruption cases database that we establish. And the database have the features of visualizing the case, and thereafter the case will be shared through online and offline engagement, and also through policy dialogues with stakeholders, and also through other means of engagement. And we receive feedback from them, which we write recommendations and engage the National Judicial Council in Nigeria to ensure that they take actions on the things or challenges that are slowing the process of the judicial system. Next slide. So basically within the period, we have established, we are present in 21 states with 51 courts with 72 case trackers, and we have held 19 radio programs, 7 public policy dialogues, and we developed 11 policy briefs. The project has helped reduce average years of corruption cases trial in Nigeria from 8 to between 3 to 4 years. And it has also advocated for the designation of special courts to try corruption cases, which was approved by the then Chief Justice of Nigeria. And within the first 6 months of that designation of special courts, it's reported that there is an increase in conclusion of corruption cases, in which 324 judgments were delivered, 12 cases were struck out, and 62 cases were reserved for judgment. So basically within the period also, we built a database of over 3,000 corruption cases to enable citizens to track the cases, to follow up on their own and engage them and improve civic participation in the judicial system. We opened about 2,000 cases to the citizens for live updates and live tracking. We have also provided 170 researchers with data, and also prevented over 40 fraud activities from taking place in Nigeria using the database. Next slide. So what we are looking forward to now is to expand our monitoring trial from 21 states to 36 states in Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, and also advocate for the legislation of special crimes court to prosecute corruption cases and other criminally related cases. We also look to expand our initiative to monitor and track other categories of criminal cases, like sexual and gender-based violence, drug trafficking, kidnapping, and other aspects of criminal cases that is requiring attention of monitoring to ensure transparency and accountability and justice delivery. So we are also looking at advocating, creating an advocacy campaign against state pardon for persons convicted of corruption, and also legislative / executive interference in trial of high-profile corruption cases. So basically, this is what we do in Nigeria and how we are improving the justice system to ensure that the citizens get the basic services and people are sanctioned for the offenses they are committing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abbas. It's very interesting, actually, your project. Our second speaker will be from Bangladesh, the project called Right Jusur, and it will be presented by Mr. Baradeep Dota. So please.
Respected World Justice Project finalists, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my heartiest congratulations to all of you on behalf of our organization, Right Josur Bangladesh. Right Josur is a leading human rights-based organization working to uphold the rights of every human being in Bangladesh since 1991. In this effort, Right Josur initiated a community-led approach to prevent corruption through promoting and strengthening financial disclosure practice by the local elected representative. I am Pradeep Dotto, working there as a director of program, Right Josur Bangladesh. Now, I would like to tell you a scenario on corruption. Though you all know that corruption is not a new phenomenon for us, but my story was evolved during the COVID-19 situation for distributing relief materials to the vulnerable people. You might know that Bangladesh is moving towards a middle-income country. On the other hand, Bangladesh's current governance situation is deeply rooted in its recent history and political situation, and corruption is one of the main reasons of poor governance. According to the 2021 Corruption Index, Perception Index Transparency International, Bangladesh is ranked 147 out of the 180 countries. One of the key areas of corruption in the social safety net program, particularly relief distribution to the vulnerable people, which directly affects to the poor people of our country. This social safety net program helps to reduce the poverty and vulnerability of our poor people. And all these programs are implemented by the local elected representative of the Union Council, which is the lowest government structure of our country. We observed that in the social safety net program corruption has been increasing day by day due to lack of effective monitoring, transparency, and accountability mechanism. And there has been a general perception that these elected representatives have been making money from these social safety net programs. Though our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina announced zero tolerance for corruption as the key policy of our government, and also is reflected in the election manifesto. However, widespread corruption was reported by the media during distribution of relief materials in the pandemic situation. Our local government ministry temporarily suspended 71 elected representatives due to their misappropriating relief distribution. And also, the Anti-Corruption Commission of our country filed 34 cases against the 30 elected representatives. In these circumstances, we think that citizen initiative to introduce financial disclosure by the local government representative could be a critical tool to improve the accountability of the local elected representative. This initiative was for the first time in Bangladesh, which not only helped to reduce the poverty, but also it helped decrease the corruption, but also promote an accountability mechanism of the local elected representative. Through this way, we Right Josur implemented a pilot project for 12 months and worked with 10 local government representatives. Here I want to tell you that the task was not very easy. Naturally, nobody wants to share their financial stability to others. In this situation, we talked with several local government representatives, with the civil society, and few of them are showing their interest to willing us to join part in this project, and few are not. Later, we have signed the agreement with the selected representative for disclosing their financial statement to the public, and also establish a platform of accountability mechanism at the union level by forming non-partisan civil society group. We also involve media, local government institutions, other stakeholders, community people to implement the project successfully. After signing the agreement with the local elected representative, we have collected financial statement from them, which they are submitted to the Bangladesh Election Commission in 2016. And just before the next election, as the last year, 2021, local government election was started throughout the country, in our country. Again, we have collected financial statement from them after providing the 5-year service. Then we analyzed about 2 statements to portray their current status of wealth of chairman of elected representative. We found that among 10 local government representatives, some of them are increased their financial capability and some of them remain same as 5 years back in 2016. and two VP chairmen decrease their financial stability. Then the Union Parishad chairman or local government representative disclose their financial statement to the citizen and with the media for greater audience. And it has happened just ahead of the Union Parishad election. So it was a great opportunity for the people to see their candidate financial statement openly, which was the first time in our country. Our national media highlighted this success and published an editorial saying that the project activities are very helpful for increasing transparency and accountability and combating corruption. Media calls for other representatives to replicate such practices across the Bangladesh. Through this way, general voters become aware about their candidate and their financial situation, and their confidence has increased, and project supported local representative won the election. In the MP election, project supported 3 local level representative re-elected, though they were the rival candidate against the party-nominated candidate. They expressed that the project initiative, especially financial disclosure practice, was very helpful to gather the support to win the local government election. Now I am going to show you our project impact, though it was a pilot project. We observed that relationship between local elected representative and the citizen has been increased, which actually helped to improve proper people service and distributing the relief materials to the vulnerable people. On the other hand, civil society representatives are saying that the project has created ample scope to measure the standards of a clean or corruption-free candidate, and will encourage to the local elected representative to continue the practice beyond the project period. Through this project, we can tell that the transparency and accountability of the local elected representative to the citizen are improving day by day in our project area. So we believe that effective expansion of this theory could reduce corruption and will make a change in distributing government assistance by the elected representative and increase transparency and accountability of the citizen. So let's do it for ensuring effective governance system and improving transparency and accountability of the elected representative. That's all. Thank you for the patience.
Thank you, Baradeep, but I'm just wondering, how did you convince them to declare these political representatives to declare their financial situation? But we'll discuss that in the discussion later. Our third candidate will be David Garcia from Paraguay, and his project is Re-Action Paraguay. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're good? I'd like to tell you a very unlikely story about constructive impatience and conflict. A story about innovation based on the mundane, with counterintuitive insights for anti-corruption. It started when I was 17, and a rumor spread that I would run for president of the Students' Council in one of the largest public high schools in my country, Paraguay. Shockingly, that rumor was enough for the incumbent president, a kid my age, to offer us money to stay out. I had always despised politics. I found it dirty and corrupt, but I felt a sense of responsibility and duty. You see, I'm the son of a shoeshine boy and a girl adopted from the streets, who barely finished high school when I was already in the 6th grade. My parents taught me that education is a privilege, and if you have access to it, it becomes a responsibility and a duty to your community. So I ran. We won the elections and immediately began investigating. Corruption was pervasive. To expose it, I led a mass demonstration mobilizing over 3,000 students for 4 weeks. I was defamed by the news media, almost went to jail a few times, and was threatened by the police. Reality slapped me on the face and made me 10 years older in 1 month. How can a country say it is fighting corruption if its next generations of leaders are being educated by corrupt people? And that's when I understood. It's not about individuals. Nothing short of a strong community with high skills and capabilities, with sustainable resources, led by people who have actually suffered the problems they were trying to solve, could do it. But I was only 17. So, a few months later, I started Reacción, fully aware that I would not live to see the changes I would be fighting for. Sustainable change takes decades. But who has patience to build long-term in the age of immediate gratification and social media? Our story is unlikely because it's the story of youth that has built community based on constructive conflict and focusing our impatience for over a decade. The challenge is that youth is not, well, it's often associated with passion, bursts of idealism, and disruptive acts, not with discipline, pragmatism, and constructive acts. In short, we are old enough for the revolutions, but we are too young and inexperienced for anything else. So, a few decades ago, with a group of teenagers, I chose to revolutionize the anti-corruption in the education sector. And we began in 2013 with Paraguay's most important education fund, about $90 million annually distributed for school infrastructure and meals. I guess we were not ambitious. In 2020, 7 years afterwards, that's how we started FOCO, our community monitoring tool to monitor the allocation of the funds I mentioned. FOCO harnesses open government data from 3 key ministries and enriches them with data produced by citizens in order to facilitate collective action activities to showcase, identify, and prioritize public investment in education, while simultaneously allowing the exposure of irregularities such as corruption and misallocation. Although this is a very new application, it has already influenced a major policy reform in Paraguay in the procurement system, and it has become its public interface. But until last year, we only had access to data of the contract stage, which means it was too late to tackle corruption. We could only expose it. With FOCO and community participation, now we can know where the money is going at the tender stage, which gives us 3 months on average for citizens to denounce and block corruption. So now we can finally prevent it. Because Paraguay uses the Open Contracting Data Standard, this means that FOCO can be adapted and implemented in the more than 30 countries that are currently implementing said standard. And it can also be adapted to, say, the healthcare sector. What about our national impact? In the past decade, we have increased 5-fold the public investment in the neediest schools in our municipality. We have developed effective technological solutions for problems in the education and healthcare sectors. And we have achieved major reforms working closely in cooperation with government ministries. I've led those achievements with a staff that has never averaged over 23 years of age. All of them were first volunteers who, like myself, come from poor communities. Our background and experience led us to very counterintuitive insights. For instance, transparency is more about trust than access. Anti-corruption should be political. Technology should not save us the trouble of being citizens by automating tasks that should be done by citizens. And the mundane can be revolutionary. The mundane can be revolutionary. The current situation in Paraguay makes the Netflix series Narcos seem unimaginative and boring, honestly. The importance of education is evident for development. But let me stress one point. Kids who cannot finish school are assets for organized crime lords. In conclusion, in our impatient times, I wish our unlikely story reminds us of three things. First, immediate gratification only happens in social media. Sustainable change takes time and collective action. Second, we should approach change and work for change that we will not live to see. This gives us clarity to differentiate what we want to do from what needs to be done. Third and finally, true hope is not believing in something because it is likely to happen, but because there is justice in what we believe in. In that sense, hope is justice to come. Hope is justice to come. They are justice to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. You were saying that when I was sitting next to you, you were saying, I am anxious. But I have seen someone different here. Oh my God, you're a leader for a lot of youth. Our fourth project is Svitana, and her project is about transparency in international Russia. So can you please?
Dear friends, good morning. And today I would like to talk to you about transparency and how do an illusion of a fair decision-making process. And more to it, how do we think we influence the process and what escapes our sight. My name is Svetlana and I am from Russia. And first of all, I would like to say what I think and feel about today's state of events. Observing the loss of my country, where I live, where my family is located, and where I have to return, this is the only way when I can safely express my attitude. I'm deeply concerned and anxious, I'm depressed about the events in which my country and much of the world community are involved. That said, I want to give you one interesting fact. One-fifth of the deputies of the Russian Federal Parliament of the seventh convocation promoted the interests of the military forces. How do you think, did people who voted for them in 2016 know about it? And would they vote like that in case of knowing? So let's tell me my story. I was born in Russia, in the southwest of Siberia, in the small town of Barnaul in Altai region. My homeland is famous for its beautiful mountain rivers, agriculture, delicious honey, and high-quality cheese. My parents, my friends, my family, and my cat Nika live there. There I work and do what I love. And when I was a young girl, I didn't dream of becoming a ballerina or famous singer. However, I always wanted to bring something value, something important and something good, something benefit, yet I didn't know how. It all sorted out when I started working in Transparency International Russia. I wanted to bring value, so I decided to look at those whose job is to bring value, at the deputies of the Russian State Duma, and how they represent their voters' interests. In other words, what good do they do? And this is where our project started. The first deputy I studied was Nikolai Gerasimenko. This man was elected for 6 times from my region, and those donors during the election campaign were insurance and pharmacological companies. And we found out that he was introducing the bills which met the interests of those companies. What a surprise. And just imagine, we have 450 deputies from the lower house of parliament, another 200 parliamentarians from the upper one, and we want to know which interests they represent. However, we have no regulating law on lobbying in Russia, and no civic watch on lobbying practices, and that leads to great corruption risks influenced by third parties in the lawmaking process. At the same time, everyone acknowledges that lobbying exists in Russia, and the market of lobbying services is known to be valued as $500 million per year. Please let me present to you Duma Bingo. It's our service where you can easily find clear information on how Russian deputies and senators are connected and related to various groups of interest. In other words, Duma Bingo allows you to track lobbying practices in the federal parliament. For example, Senator Lebedev promoted the law for exclusive opportunities for the personal hunting companies. His family was a beneficiary, and he himself often invited the member of the presidential administration his hunting areas. Another example, the deputy Ponomarev has a cow husbandry and milk cows, and he promoted the law leading to zero tax for importing milk cows. That resulted to millions of rubles not paid to the state budget. And there are many, many cases else. Duma Bingo was developed in two stages. In 2019, we published the first interactive map about interest and connections of the deputies of the Russian State Duma of the 7th convocation. In spring 2021, we represented the second map on senators and their lobbying projects. On both maps, you can see groups of parliamentarians by sector of the economy and by financial and industrial groups. Complete information about each deputy and senator in their own personal profiles, and who of the parliamentarians has a greater impact on the lawmaking process. The service is now used by journalists and scholars studying for database, for lobbying practices, for making the further investigations about Russian deputy and senators, and also by different consulting agencies as an instrument for business integrity decisions. And we already have the working group by stakeholders to bring their lobbying practices to the legal field. But you should know that the access to factual information in Russia is becoming more difficult. And we consider that it's our duty to provide people with the important facts about each member of the parliament, so they can make the well-informed decisions while voting. And we also want to bring Russian citizens and people outside Russia to monitor and understand decision-making process in our country. Last autumn, a new Duma election was held in Russia. At least half of the deputies of the State Duma were elected for the first time. And these new elected people are taking part in the political decision-making process right now. And we want to know who they are. And that is a job for the Duma Bingo team. We have a big team working on this project, including lawyers, developers, analysts, and so on. And most of them are volunteers. But to make Duma Bingo more powerful, more useful, more user-friendly, we need our team to devote all their working time to it, therefore to be fairly paid. So I like to dream, and I'm still, in times like this, I think it's more important than ever. And I'm still pursuing my desire to bring the additional value to the world. So I'm sure that our project can lead to development of the democratic process and institutions in Russia, and raise people's responsibility and active participation in the political life of our country. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. I think all of you are really hope for the future. Our last presenter, I think, is from Kazakhstan, Mr. Fatili Is he online or? Oh, yes. Trenkeshko, and his project is on the Committee of Internal Public Audit of Kazakhstan, an open contracting partnership. Please.
Thank you very much for such great opportunity to share our experience of public procurement monitoring transformation in Kazakhstan. And today I'll share with you how active business intelligence approach contributed to spot risky procurements, boost productivity of auditors, and help to save taxpayers' money. We have about $10 billion spent by the government on public procurement every year in Kazakhstan. It's roughly 6% of country's GDP. And this money is used to build schools, to repair roads, to buy medicine and other vital goods and services. And that's why it is essential to spend this money efficiently. But corruption is still the main problem in public procurement. And another problem is the lack of competition. When the competition is fair, it could lead to approximately 20% of savings. But almost 2/3 of public procurement in Kazakhstan are spent without any competition, directly from single source. And Ministry of Finance estimated the annual losses from sole source procurements about $500 million. It's a huge money. For example, you can construct 85 brand new schools and provide access to education to over 100,000 children with this money. And my team and I feel that we can help the government to minimize these losses, because we happen to have some expertise in data analytics in the field of anti-corruption. And we identified that the weak spot was the sheer number of public procurements. About 1.5 million contracts concluded by the state bodies annually. This is a huge amount of contracts, and you cannot check them all manually. So we defined the strategy for automatization of detection red flags in public procurement. We start this journey with two basic ideas in mind. First of all, we need to build some applications that check all procurements from different stages and spot the risky ones, focusing the attention of auditors on riskiest procurements, and so they're able to take actions. The second idea is about working on prevention, which is definitely better than dealing with consequences. So we need to pay more attention on planning and tendering stages. So auditors able to interfere and change the way of procedure from single source to competitive one, and remove the obstacles for bidders, and that's how money is saved. We start with creating some kind of methodology of spotting red flags in public procurement. We analyzed world's best practices, and our methodology contains over 40 red flags on all stages, from planning to contract execution, and, for example, overestimation of prices, or maybe shell companies registered on nominees, on dead and homeless people, some collusion between suppliers, and so on. And for calculating these red flags, we use a lot of data from different sources, mostly open data, public procurement plans, tenders, contracts, payments, suppliers data, customers data, tax data, and so on. All this data comes from different sources via different protocols, and we gather all this data, cleanse it, normalize, and combine it with various data sources of internal or third-party data sources, and create one big data model that allows us to calculate red flags and build analytic applications for auditors and NGOs. And those analytic applications designed to spot risky public procurements, to focus the attention of auditors, and they have all necessary information for auditors to make decisions and take actions. Better control leads to better, more efficient spending by the government agencies, and the better quality of goods and services provided for the citizens. And I'm happy to share the result of our projects. We able to identify more than 130,000 red flags on all stages, and most of them were on planning stage, which is good for prevention. And the more important, 86 million of taxpayers' money have been saved. And we built some kind of ecosystem for sustainability of our project. We have clients, different law enforcement agencies, and government organizations like Ministry of Finance. We also have NGOs, academic organizations, journalists as our end users, and we also have partners and investors. And now we try to replicate our project. We start to some proof of concept projects in other countries like Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan this year. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Vitali. I think your project is amazing. You should sell it. You will be a rich person. I will promote it in my country. We need it as well, actually. Anyway, this is the end of the presentation. Now I will ask Madame Jane Bagel she will be responsible for the second part of the session.
Good morning. I'm Jan Beagle, Director General of the International Development Law Organization, and also one of the judges for this challenge. And I have to say, wow, great projects. Wow, right? We're very impressed. And I'd like to ask the finalists if they could come up onto the stage now, join me, and also if Mr. Inouye can come join us on Zoom. Nice to see you. I'm going to pose some questions to each of you, have a short discussion. There'll be about 5 minutes for each of you, and I'll maybe give you 2 sets of questions each. And I'm going to start with Mr. Inouye. Nice to see you there, and very interesting project. And I want to ask you, first of all, just briefly, in implementing your project, what was the most effective strategy that you found? What did you find had the greatest impact? And also, what was the biggest obstacle? Over to you.
All right, thank you very much. The most important strategy or effective strategy we use in ensuring that we get the desired result is the fact that if you are working from the outside, it's very difficult for you to implement the change you want to implement. Therefore, what works for us well is the partnership we establish with the stakeholders in the justice system. Particularly, like I said earlier, we partnered with the National Judicial Council. They has the responsibility to ensure that the judiciary responds to right procedures and processes, and also follow due process in trial processes and what have you. And it's effective because our partnership and advocacy has led the then Supreme Court of Nigeria to designate a special court to help facilitate a speedy dispensation of those cases. So one of the most effective strategy that we use is the partnership. And also we galvanize citizen support to ensure that there is civic participation in the justice system. That has helped us in a way for the citizen to demand accountability from the judicial officers. So the most effective strategies that we use is a collaborative strategy that brings people from the outside of the government and those working in the government to ensure that we effect the change we want to see. Then the greatest obstacle that we face at the initiation of the project is data. The project is anchored on the on data using the court records to expose the trial process in terms of not following due process and following due process, so that we'll be able to engage stakeholders, create insights from the data and engage stakeholders to show them this is what is working and this is not what is working. So to obtain the data has become difficult for us. And again, partnership has helped us to accelerate and achieve the desired result in that regard. So basically, these are the strategies that we use, and this is the greatest obstacle we face. But with our level of partnership, to some extent, we were able to reduce it to a very minimum.
Okay. Thanks so much. What's next for your project? Do you have plans to continue, to expand?
Yes. Presently, we are covering only 21 states out of 36 states in Nigeria. So we look to expand to other states. That is the first aspect of our plan to expand. And secondly, we are only tracking or monitoring corruption cases. And we have also established the fact that there are other criminal cases that are very, very important, which also require the attention of monitoring to ensure delivery of justice. Particularly, we are looking at, or we have commenced the process of tracking cases that involve gender-based violence. This will help to ensure that justice is delivered to the right people or to the survivors of those violence. We also look to expand to other countries. We are in plan to, there is an NGO that reached us to us from Benin Republic. So we are working to expand the project to domesticate it in that country, most likely by the end of this year.
Thank you so much. A great deal to do and very exciting. I'm going to move to Mr. Duta, and I'd like to ask you, what was the most effective strategy that your project used? And if you also might like to say what was your major challenge?
Thank you. Our most effective strategy was the community involvement. We observed that it's community involved or community convinced the local elected representative, they will encourage. As they are the citizen, they directly vote to the elected representative or local government representative. So we involve community, and we also, as it was a pilot project, and we are working since 1991, so we have a communication and we have a experiences to work with the local level election representative, elected representative. So we involve them to involve in this project local competition through the community people. They convince them, and they think that if they show their financial stability to the publics, so public can encourage them and public can vote them to the re-elected for the next time. That was our most effective strategy for it. And challenge, yes, it was very, very challenging, because if, when they disclose their financial statement, how you could think that it is the right thing? They could just something show they are not, another thing they are not showing their financial security. So it was a challenge. So in that time, people are talking, they know this is not correct. You have this building, you have this car, you have this, you cannot showing that. So it was a challenge for us that they are showing the accurate financial information. Yeah, this is our big challenge, actually.
And what's next for your project?
Yeah. We are working at that lower level, at the local committee representative, and we have the upper level, the sub-district level, then the district level, then the parliamentary and the national level. So we are thinking that if we scope to through other project, or we will continue that the next level, the administrative level, Upazila level.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn to Mr. Veras Casillas, and I'm going to ask you also, what did you think was the most effective strategy? You had many, I know, but what was the most effective? And again, what did you see as the major obstacles in front of you?
So I mentioned the word constructive conflict many times. I think what is seemingly inefficient in the short term especially if we talk about log frames, can become long-term efficiency with high potential for impact. Community building and investing in local community capacity is that kind of thing. If you looked at us 10 years ago, we were a bunch of kids that they laughed at us because we were trying to fight corruption in one of the most corrupt countries in Latin America. Then 5 years ago, it was already becoming a movement. So we are very grateful that we had people supporting us, the community, at that level, when nobody would bet in a group of 16, 17, 18 years old kids that were doing that. That constructive conflict also translates to our work with government. There is this perception that when civil society works with government, especially anti-corruption, you have to be very careful. In our case, and I'll give just one example, I remember we were ridiculing the Ministry of Education, the minister himself, because he conditioned sending food supplies to students during the pandemic, and the condition was that they had to finish their homework. So the same day that we posted illustrations making him look like a clown, which he was, the same day we were meeting from 8 to 10 p.m. at night with the cabinet of the ministry cooperating with this project. So although they know that we are harsh critics, they also have 100% trust that we are there to help. The obstacles, well, the fact that we developed in the tribal border area of South America. So we're not from Asunción, the capital. We are between Ciudad del Este, Foz do Iguaçu, Brazil, and Puerto Iguaçu, Argentina. So that's an area where there is no civil society ecosystem. And the other thing, of course, we are young. So as I said, youth is not really related to this type of work. It's only about passion and energy. And we're trying to prove people that we can also be experts and build things long term.
Thank you so much. And what's next?
As I mentioned, for instance, we could emulate this application and monitoring mechanism with our colleague here from Datanomics, because I assume you use the Open Contracting Data Standard, right? So this standard is used in over 30 countries. Paraguay is actually one of the best in the world with Ukraine in terms of the publication of procurement data. We can also, and we want to very shortly, adapt the map and the monitoring mechanism to the healthcare sector, which is, again, very easy, comparatively speaking, because there is a standard and there is a module we developed, and we're working with the Ministry of Education, with the Healthcare Ministry, and the Procurement Directorate for that purpose.
Thanks so much. I'm now going to turn to Svetlana Talnova. So I'm asking you, what was the most effective strategy that your project used, but also your biggest challenge?
So I tried to answer. First of all, I would say that this project took 4 years of my life and 4 years of life of my team, of my project team, and we have a lot of challenges and a lot of difficulties during this project. First, 4 years ago, nobody speaks about lobbying, about this important problem. Nobody, nobody saw to us as an experts, and the lobbying processes in the case where we have no law on lobbying, it's very difficult to explain people, to explain ordinary citizens why it is important, why it is a corruption risk, why these dark sectors of lobbyists, but we didn't know who they are. And we didn't touch them, didn't speak to them, and couldn't understand what they think, what they thought, and why. So the last 30 years, 5 bills on lobbying were introduced to the State Duma. And no bills didn't become a law. And I think it's a most important challenge of the lobbyists. So, and now I can say that the business, the local groups, the civil society, the journalists and scholars, we all are speaking about it, and we understand. We can touch the people who lobby. And we can talk to the big companies about this important problem and about their vision, how it could be regulated. And now, and last year we advocated a lot of, and now we already have a small working group of stakeholders, which consists of municipal deputies, the experts, the GR peoples who are responsible for government relations. And now we could prepare 6 ways to regulate it.
Good. I think you told us where you're going now, which is, I think, very interesting. Yeah? So,
our plans?
Yeah, I think, yes, just very briefly, you want to say any more about your next steps?
Yeah, about next steps. Yeah. As I said during the presentations, we have new elected Duma and replaced senators, and we should to update to make the third interactive map, and we should make an archive for the deputies which were not elected for the next time, and I think we should to translate the service in English, because we see that there are people who are interested in it. And there are our next steps.
Wonderful. Let me turn now to Mr. Trenkenchu, and let me ask you also, what did you see as the most effective strategy to move your project forward, and also what did you find as your major challenge?
Thank you. I think 2 main points. First of all is actionable insights, and the second one is working with different customers. We calculate a lot of red flags, but the main question is, so what? What should we do with this information? What's the next step? What's the actions should be taken? And we are focusing on this, answering on this question. So we develop different strategies for different red flags about handling them after. And also we are focusing to work with different stakeholders, with NGOs and with government organizations, with policy makers like Ministry of Finance, with law enforcement agencies, because different organizations focus on different goals, and they see public procurement from different perspectives. So we're trying to build this bridge between NGOs and the government, and involve as much stakeholders as we can around our project. Yeah.
And going forward, what's next?
This year we already monitor about $10 billion of procurement now, but this year we plan to add another $10 billion of procurement under our monitoring by incorporating not only government procurement, but national companies procurement too. National companies, these companies in Kazakhstan that owned by state bodies. So this is another $10 billion they spent, and this money definitely should be effectively monitored. So this is one next step. And another, we plan to release public procurement monitoring tool with open contracting partnership. We worked on it since the beginning of the year and plan to release this month. This tool, it will be available for free for every citizen. Yeah, this is our plan.
Well, thank you. I think we've heard some amazing, effective strategies, and I think all of you have talked about partnerships and multi-stakeholder action, community involvement and capacity building, constructive conflict or disruption. I would say also we've seen the power of youth, of idealism, and a lot of innovation. And I'd like to ask each of you a last question, and that really is, what advice would you give to other change makers who would like to drive some change in their communities, either in the area that you have or in any area of change? And I'm going to start with Mr. Inua.
Thank you very much. I believe the first thing for every change maker working to come up with a project, a similar project, is to carry out a research and understand the issue around what he wants to solve, and develop a strategy on how he wants to go about it. And basically, like I emphasized earlier, you need the support of the people. You are going to work with people in the government, and also need the support of the citizens for whatever project that you are trying to implement. Is the core part of it is you look at diversity, you also look at inclusion, and you also look at engagement in whatever strategy you are going to adopt in implementing that project. And do not forget to carry people on board. Co-creation is key. When we are creating our database, we worked with the people within the government system to co-create the database in a way that they are going to bring in their input, which we can learn from it, and they can also learn from the outside, which is the civil society. So if you co-create a project together, it helps and it makes it more easier for implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duta.
Yeah, thank you. If I can say that I am a general people in our country, and I work in organization and doing a monthly salary, and I am also provide the tax. But in my country, our local or the elected representative, any other elected representative, they are making money day by day. Yeah? Or we are observing and we cannot do anything. So if in our project implementation, our district administration is also supported that, and the local government director also supported that. They convince that if the government official also, not only the elected representative, provide that financial disclosure to the public, then it can be a solution for our reduce the corruption and combating the corruption for our country like Bangladesh. So we also give the express our audience and also provide the to our other audience to, if we explore their financial disclosure practice toward the public, especially for elected representative, then it can be a solution. We think that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Garcia.
Well, I'm a bit biased because I started the organization when I was 17, so my experience is kind of biased in that sense. I would say, addressing mostly young people, first and foremost, do not make the anti-corruption discourse become the anti-politics discourse. Don't be too fascinated about technology, which is important, but the best technology is community. It's people. People and community allow you to increase the political cost of inaction. Therefore, you can improve service delivery in education and healthcare. And then the 3 points that I mentioned in my conclusion. We have grown in an era of immediate gratification in social media. So there's a lot of people wanting immediate change. And we crystallize historical moments in a speech, in a revolution, but they only happened because there was years of work before that. And please remember, again, that hope is not believing in something because it's possible, but because there's justice in what we're believing in. And as I said, in that sense, hope is justice to come, and young people can be that change, that hope, that justice.
Thank you very much. Ms. Telnova.
Yeah. So, the best strategies for changing. So we, my team and I, we thought a lot about this strategy and how could we change, how could we manage that the lobbying would be regulated, and we understood that we need to find the main agents for changing. And we, if you see the problem, you should know what the reasons of this problem, and you should to speak, to talk, to know the stakeholders which could change, which could influence the decision-making process, which could influence the agents of the changing, and you haven't to forget about the people, about ordinary people which used to know this problem and how this problem could touch them and how they could solve them. And if you look for the solution, you always have to think about the stakeholders and advocate first in this area where the stakeholders is dealing with. So.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Trinkenshu, what advice would you give to others who would like to drive change?
Yeah, my advice is also build the communities, because it is very important. And it's hard to change the inertia, the way of behavior. People used to behave the old way, and it takes a lot of education, a lot of activities, a lot of efforts to change their behavior. So it's better to start with small steps, to do a lot of education, to build communities, and this could lead to a big wave.
Well, I think all of you are inspiring. I think that all of us here would just like to give you a huge round of applause. I have to say I'm especially impressed by the way you have envisioned these projects. So before you came to the strategy, you had your visions, and nothing is started without the vision. So that is extremely exciting. And also I'm impressed by the way in which you've addressed the challenges, and the way that you have seen that there is no immediate gratification, that it's step by step and a lot of hard work. And I really congratulate you on that, and I'm sure we all wish you the very best in carrying forward your projects, hoping you can also expand them, as many of you are thinking about. And as David said to us, and I like it very much, hope is justice to come. And I'd just like to remind all of you to join the World Justice Challenge Awards ceremonies. It's tomorrow, June 2nd at 4:15. Where one of the anti-corruption and open government projects will win the $20,000 prize. However, as far as I'm concerned, you are all winners. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and on behalf of both of us, thank you to the audience for coming, and really best of luck to all of you. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Enowa, online.